Right now on the Murphy Show hotline, we call it the Vulcan Termite and Pest Control hotline. Vulcan Termite and Pest Control hotline, where there are no pests, just guests. We welcome House District 9 Representative Ed Henry to the program to talk about the upcoming legislative session. Ed, good morning.
Good morning. I do have to warn you, though, I have been labeled a pest before, so.
That's part of the reason I'm calling you. I think you've become very pesky to certain individuals in the executive branch of government, but that we'll save that for a little bit later on. So less than 2 weeks to go before the legislative session, and obviously the 800-pound elephant in the room, if you will, is the general fund shortfall. Give us your thoughts. I know you are conservative when it comes to these matters. You believe in saving first and spending last. Tell me about it.
Well, and that's exactly the mantra I think you'll see coming out of the legislature. You know, I know the governor's scrambling around trying to figure out how to feed this beast that he's been tasked by the citizens of Alabama to run. I don't believe that the people, at least in my area of Alabama, elected him to do that by taking more of their money in order to feed it. So I'm curious to see what he's going to send over to us. I'm going to withhold much on my comments until I see what he actually sends over. He's telegraphing pretty hard right now, but we'll see what he actually comes through with.
You know, and a lot of us we effort to give the governor the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he is a likable individual. He is a genteel sort. Has he been easy to work with? In your perspective as a House member, has the legislature worked well with the governor in his first term, in the last term?
You know, I can't speak for the entire body, but I can speak for myself. He's been approachable, easy to have conversations with. I don't always understand why he was making decisions. The first 4 years, it was. He was making decisions based on what would get him reelected. Now I have no idea why he is making the decisions he's making, other than maybe the advice he's getting from the people closest to him.
Yeah, and that caused a lot of us in the more conservative media to scratch our heads, Ed, and obviously you're referring to his hiring of former Democrat Speaker of the House, former Siegelman confidant Seth Hammett as his new chief of staff, and it seems that Mr. Hammett getting his feet wet in the role of chief of staff has coincided with something of a change of tone from the governor. Have you noticed that as well?
I've noticed it, and I don't know which came first. I don't know if the governor decided he was going to have to raise taxes, and in order to do that, he needed to find a tax and spend type of chief of staff, or if he hired a chief of staff that convinced him a tax and spend was the right direction. I'm not sure which came first.
The one final thought on the campaign, because I'm very curious, Ed. You've always been as straightforward as anybody that serves in the Alabama legislature. The governor,
not always for my.
Well, yeah, it doesn't always do you it doesn't always do you a great benefit. But the governor, during his campaign, I mean, I don't know that there was anybody that thought that the governor was going to lose to Parker Griffith. I mean, and obviously he mopped the floor with Parker Griffith. That said, he maintained throughout the campaign that whatever budget shortfalls that we had, that we can manage them. He continued with his pledge of no new taxes. He was up on billboards with his face, and right beside his face is no new taxes. And then the governor said that after the campaign was done and after his election, he got the budget requests, and it was only after the election and his reelection that he realized.
I knew while we were working on last year's budget that this coming year's budget was going to be even worse. Now, I'm a lowly House member. if I could see the writing on the wall then, I have to believe that our chief executive officer of the state knew what was coming. And I believe had he projected a year ago that these were his intentions, he would have probably had more competition in a Republican primary. There's no way he didn't see this coming. It's not that hard to see the writing on the wall.
He has not only changed his position on the issue of taxation, now seemingly almost gleefully proclaiming, hey, the first 4 years we didn't raise taxes. The next 4 years we're raising taxes. Now, he has to convince a majority of the legislature to go along with him on this. Obviously, I would expect the Democrats would be with him on the matter, but they're in very much the minority. Can he cobble this together? And we're getting word that he's trying to cobble it together already with what some have described as strong-arm tactics.
Well, so the governor has certain tools in his shed that he can work with to strong-arm legislation. Governors throughout the decades have used them, and they're typically road projects, other types of building projects that the governor has pretty much the sole discretion to point in a certain, if it's going to happen here or there. The legislature holds the purse strings for departments, but then the day-to-day operation of those departments comes all the way back up to the governor. So I believe from what I have heard in conversation and from the governor himself that he will use every tool in his shed to strong-arm the legislature into accepting his tax proposals. I mean, that's just, he's going to come with that. So what's going to happen is people like myself and the representatives in your area and senators in your area are going to have to determine, is it more beneficial for the people of Alabama for me to get some special project that maybe my city or my county's been wanting for the last 10 or 15 years and vote for a tax increase, or is it more important for me to stand the line, hold the line on tax increases, and suffer by not getting those projects? And those are the decisions that are going to be made all across the state.
We are told, and some might be wondering, and by the way, our guest, for those that don't know, is Representative Ed Henry of the 9th District up in North Alabama. Some may be wondering, well, why are you talking to Ed this morning? Well, I heard your name specifically mentioned as one of the legislators that was called out by the governor with regard to infrastructure spending and community development spending. Is that true?
That is true. That is true.
And I heard that your response was essentially, well, I guess I mean, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I guess I'll have to do without. Was that your general response?
That is my response. I did not get elected to office to continue the status quo. That's the reason our country is in the shape it's in. It's the reason our state is in the state that it's in, is because people, legislators, politicians believed that they can go to Montgomery, go to Washington, do whatever they want as far as voting themselves pay raises, tax increases, but as long as they bring home the bacon, bring home the projects to their local area, they can do anything they want to in Montgomery. In 2010, we changed all that. We flipped the House. We flipped the Senate. We changed the mindset in Montgomery. And I still believe there are enough of us that are in that mindset today that will hold the line. But I know for a fact that's what I was sent there to do. I was not sent there to bring home the bacon. Now, there'll be people in my area that'll probably not like to hear that, and they may take me out. In 4 years, they may decide they wanted their projects. But for the time being, I will hold this line hard and fast.
Ed Henry, our guest this morning for a few more minutes. Ed, we had Del Marsh on, President Pro Tem of the Senate, obviously, yesterday. And he said, look, I give the benefit of the doubt to the governor, and I try to as well. And this is Del speaking when he says, I think he genuinely believes we have to have more revenue in order to make this work. And Del said, I genuinely believe we can make it work without additional revenue. And so I ask you, is that your belief? And specifically, how does this work without generating revenue through additional taxation as the governor has proposed?
Well, it may not work exactly the way it has worked, but I think it's probably safe to say that it hasn't worked very well for a long time. It's been an inefficient state government. There's still so much duplication of services. There are still a lot of people on the state payroll, especially in Montgomery, that do nothing every day but draw a $75,000 check, plus all the money we're putting in the retirement system to prop it up. You talk about a $700 million hole in the budget. We had to appropriate out of the budgets last year just under $1 billion just to prop up the retirement system of Alabama so that people who are in the retirement system could get their checks, because David Bronner in the retirement system hasn't met their goals of investment to be able to get a return. There are so many problems in state government that we need to fix before we go to the people of Alabama and say, we need more of your hard-earned cash.
Finally, in order for the governor the first step in order for him, he can propose anything he wants to propose, but to get it into the legislature, he has to find someone to carry his bills. And I ask this sincerely, can he will probably be desirous to find a Republican that would be willing to do it. Can
That's
he?
Right.
Yeah, can he?
I don't know. I'm sure there's one or two out there that are looking for some projects.
It will not be Ed Henry, I suggest.
No.
Well, look,
Not at all.
I always appreciate the times that we have to converse, and hopefully we can do it again. I love to get your perspective on these matters as we get into the legislative session, and let's do it again very soon, Ed.
Be glad to. Glad to. Thanks, Matt.
All right, take care. That's Representative Ed Henry of the 9th District from North Alabama. Don't get a chance to talk with him as often as we do our local representation, but it's good to speak with him. And I spoke with him specifically because I heard his name specifically mentioned as a legislator that was called out by the governor at a closed-door luncheon. It was a GOP caucus meeting, and apparently the governor said what he said. Now, if the governor was joking, I'm willing to listen to that. If the governor was, if these were good-hearted, good-natured jabs, I'm willing to hear that. But I've spoken to a number of legislators that feel like, the governor said, hey, I'm going to withhold your money. Just kidding. Not really just kidding. Oh, I'm just kidding, but not really.